Welcome back to rural Queensland today. Queensland Farmers Federation President Stuart Armitage joins us, and he's just back from overseas. He looked at agriculture all through other parts of the world. Stuart, good morning, mate. Intensive agriculture. The challenge is to meet the demands of a growing population, as we well know. How are we going to feed them, and what have we got to do within the next 20 to 30 years to make sure that we can supply enough food for our country first and then food for the world?
Interesting when you go to Europe and then you realise that we're not all that far behind them in what we need to be starting to do. So, first thing we've got to do is make sure our water reserves are looked after, that we're not losing them, make sure they're sustainable, because at the end of the day, irrigation is a mainstay. But the other thing is we only have a small amount of really good land in Australia, as does the rest of the world. So we've got to look after that as well, make sure that's not being overtaken by mining or solar farms and that sort of thing. So we need to protect that, and we're already talking. Yes, all that sort of thing. We need to just, we've got to realise that they don't make any more irrigation water, and they don't make any more good quality land. So what we've got is what we've got, and we need to protect that, and we can't do it without a willing government. So even though the landholders were willing to protect it, and they're very good at that, we need the government to stand beside us and make legislation to help protect that, so that we can. At the end of the day, while the world's starving, they want good quality food and fibre. And Australia can do that. The other thing we need to be very, very careful of is biosecurity. We're in a good place in Australia. That's one thing I noticed in Europe. You could walk from one country to the next, no trouble at all. They just didn't care. Like, we got off the plane in Amsterdam, picked up our ports and walked out into the street. So they didn't care what we really, we didn't really have to declare anything. There was a line if you wanted to declare it, but if you didn't want to declare it, you didn't have to. So we don't want to get into that position in Australia. I think we need stricter biosecurity to protect. We haven't got one industry in Australia that's not at risk, and we can't afford to lose any of our industries. See what's happened to strawberries with just a little bit
Unbelievable. And you're dead right. What we're doing is we need to protect everybody now. So, and biosecurity, our state government doesn't want to know about it, but I think Australia, the federal government, have identified that there is seriously an issue with it, and we need to make sure that we're 100% spot on. Mate, yeah. When you talk about, you need the governments to be behind to protect the quality land, you're having those discussions. Are they aware that that's what needs to be done and willing to make that change and do it?
The minister has promised us certain things, but his department is not, whether there's a fuse missing there somewhere. But I'll be talking to Minister Lynham again next week, and I'll be raising that issue again, that, we need to be putting a fence around the best quality ag land. And hopefully, in this term of government, he will give us that. He promised us that in the last term. We realised that everything was a bit tight in that term, so hopefully with a bit more freedom to do what they need to do, he can deliver on that. We will, as QFF, we will be working hard with his department to try and get those protections out there, especially now that they've removed the tree clearing legislation. Yep. The windows we did have to do that. So, when you take away that part of the equation, we need to look after what we got.
Yeah, unbelievable. It really is it's something that we know how valuable the land is that we've got and how much we want to protect it. But whether or not the government can have enough vision to see that, that's a completely separate story. Mate, when you talk about like the need to keep improving the produce, how are we seen on the world stage? We believe and rightly so, our product's superior, but on the world stage, is it regarded as well and as highly as we think it is?
Oh, we're well regarded, but we're very small players. in most of what we produce, we're small players in an isolated island. So, you know, if it's very easy for us to overproduce because our nearest neighbours are a fair distance away. So, you know, the likes of fresh flowers we looked at in Holland, we can't really move into that space. Some of those farms that we went on would glut the Australian market if one of them moved in here was what they were producing. And they were just small family farms. So, you know, some of those things we can't go there yet. I think it's in the future. And I, you know, for me, where my age is, I'm not going there. But for my son or my grandson, I can see that, you know, the land that we're working now may turn into a carrier with, you know, with the water and the right sort of buildings on it. We could be producing food and flowers that would be exported. So, yeah, I think may not need to be positioning ourselves now, but we need to be looking at those sort of things and seeing where we do fit in.
Yeah, you said right. You're happy with the support that's come from the off the back of how dry? I mean, we've only been banging on about this for a couple of years, like 7, but you know, now it looks like, you know, that the governments are starting to wake up and see that we are doing it tough, and that the drought has been playing a part.
Oh, yeah, I had a meeting with the Major General the other day that's in charge of the drought aid thing. It was a very good meeting, and I think there's 2 things that really came glaringly, is that we need to spend more time on preparedness and less time on rescue. So if we can put more money and time into being prepared for droughts, because there's nothing sure in Australia, but this one will stop, but there'll be another one will start. So it's just part of agriculture. The other thing is that people have got less and less money put aside, and I tell you that is from, and in the cases of QFF industries where we are intensive and we're intensive energy users, the gouging by the state and governments and the energy providers is leaving, in the good seasons, is leaving, you know, dairy and chicken and those sort of industries with a lot less money in their pocket for when these times come along and they need to have money in their pocket to wear the drought. So, you know, energy came up many times with our commodity people. It just taken away their profit margin in the good times, so they can't ride out the drought times.
Yeah, right. Well, I agree with you 100%. Hey, mate, really appreciate it, Stuart. You always make yourself available. Thank you, mate, so much for being with us, and we really appreciate your time this morning.
All right, thanks for that, Ben, and we'll keep in touch.
Yeah, we certainly will. We'll take a short break, be back with more. This is Rural Queensland Today.